Hello, and welcome to 10 Famous Empaths. Part 3. I provide you with more detail of famous individuals who are empaths, managing to keep their heads above the narcissistic tide which prevails amongst the famous and the well-known. Number 7. Alicia Keys. Alicia Orgello Cuck, known professionally as Alicia Keys, is an American singer-songwriter. A classically trained pianist, Keys began composing songs by age 12 and was signed at 15 years old by Columbia Records. After disputes with the label, she signed with Arista Records and later released her debut album, Songs in a Minor, with J Records in 2001. The album was critically and commercially successful, producing her first Billboard Hot 100 #1 single, Fallin', and selling over 12 million copies worldwide. The album earned Keys 5 Grammy Awards in 2002. She was born in the Hell's Kitchen neighborhood of New York City. She's the only child of Teresa Orgello and of Craig Cuck. Keys' father is African American and her mother is of Italian, Irish and Scottish descent. Keys' father left when she was 2, and she was subsequently raised by her mother during her formative years in Hell's Kitchen. Keys said that her parents never had a relationship and her father was not in her life. Although she did not like to speak about her father in order not to feed stereotypes, Keys remarked in 2001, "I'm not in contact with him. That's fine. When I was younger, I minded about that. It made me angry. But it helped show me what a strong woman my mother was and made me want to be strong like her. Probably it was better for me this way." Keys and her mother lived in a one-room apartment. Her mother often worked 3 jobs to provide for Keys, who learned how to survive from her mother's example of tenacity and self-reliance. From a young age, Keys struggled with self-esteem issues, hiding little by little when her differences made her vulnerable to judgment and later uninvited sexual attention. Living in the rough neighborhood of Hell's Kitchen, she was, from an early age, regularly exposed to street violence, drugs, prostitution, and subjected to sexual propositions in the sex trade and crime-riddled area. She explained that she saw a variety of people growing up and lifestyles, highs and lows, and it made her realize what you want and what you don't want. Keys recalled feeling fearful early on of the animal instinct that she witnessed. Her experience in the streets had led her to carry a homemade knife for protection. She became very wary, emotionally guarded, and she began wearing gender-neutral clothing and what would become her trademark cornrows. She explained that she was grateful for growing up where she did, as it prepared her for the parallels in the music industry. Particularly as she was a teenager starting out, she could maintain her focus and not derail herself. She credits her tough mother for anchoring her on a right path, as opposed to many people she knew who ended up on the wrong path and in jail. Keys attributed her unusual maturity as a young girl to her mother, who depended on her to be responsible, while she worked to provide for them and give Keys as many opportunities as possible. This indicates that Keys did experience the loss of her father, having no male role in her life, and grew up in a difficult environment. This could have been a lack of control environment, and could have therefore impacted upon her with regard to treading the path to narcissism. However, the behaviour of her mother ensured that the lack of control environment was not such that it impacted upon Keys to such an extent that would drive her down the path to narcissism, and instead caused her outcome to be one of an empath. With regard to Keys' relationships, she was originally in a low-profile romantic relationship prior to her marriage, and has remained in her marriage for over 10 years to an individual called Swizz Beatz. That is his real name. She has found herself, in effect, however, ensnared by a narcissist, which, of course, would underline her empathic status also. There have been allegations that her husband cheated in his first marriage, and that he was involved in sexting whilst married to Keys with someone called Christina Elizabeth. Keys also faced accusations of being the other woman, and was the affair partner of Swizz Beatz when he was married to Mashonda Teferi. Apparently Keys and Beatz met as teenagers, but she was unimpressed by him, as he was too ostentatious, with expensive cars, jewellery and clothing, although they met and married at a later age. It's evident that Swizz Beatz is likely to be a narcissist and therefore has ensnared Keys, and that although she may well have been the other woman with regard to him cheating on his then wife with Keys, that does not remove someone from empathic status. Indeed, her ordinary emotional empathy would be reduced as a consequence of the behaviour of the narcissist, and causing her undoubtedly to have taken decisions which ordinarily she would not have done so, were it not for the impact of the involvement and the symbiotic nature of the relationship between her and this narcissist. There are individuals who are empaths who do engage in either cheating in their own relationships or being the other party to where the individual is cheating. And although she may well be portrayed as a marriage breaker, that is the placing of the blame in the wrong place. The narcissist involved in the cheating is the individual whereby blame ought to be attributed. Of course, he will have deflected from that. However, it is clear that her husband is likely to be a narcissist, and therefore, as an empath, she's drawn to that in the symbiotic relationship that exists. Keys' empathy is underpinned primarily by her prolific philanthropy and activism. She's the co-founder and global ambassador of Keep a Child Alive, a non-profit organisation which provides medicine, orphan care and social support to families with HIV and AIDS in Africa and India. She hosts and is the musical director of Keep a Child Alive's annual fundraising gala. She's performed at the Live 8 concert. She's spoken at the United Nations AIDS Conference. She's protested at New York City Hall against proposed budget cuts for student education. She participated in the Nobel Peace Prize concert. She featured in campaign to support turning oppression into opportunity for women worldwide. She protested in the Women's March of Washington and was a key speaker at the march. In 2007, she was awarded Ambassador of Conscience for Amnesty International. She has not only appeared, if one can describe it, on the wider platform of activism and philanthropy, but she also rolls up her sleeves and gets down into grassroots activism also, as evidenced by some of those examples. This demonstrates her empathic traits of moral compass and a keen sense of justice. She has 2 children, again, underpinning the empathic traits that she has. She decided also against wearing makeup as part of a lack of grandiosity with regard to her behaviours. She is not an individual that is known for being difficult to work with. She is not an individual that is surrounded by controversy and scandal. She is well regarded by many people, having been provided with accolades and awards with regard to both her material and also her socio-political consciousness which she exhibits. She is seen very much as a role model and has been credited with inspiring and influencing many artists, including Adele, Rihanna, Jessie Ware, James Bay, Wyvern Lingo, Jorha Smith, Normani, Alessia Cara, Ruth Ann Cunningham, Heather Russell, and Sophia Delia, amongst others. She has visited various African countries such as Uganda, Kenya and South Africa to promote care for children affected by AIDS and to help raise money and build a clinic that not only offered beds and medicine but legal aid, microcredit and women's empowerment groups. It also provided much needed employment opportunities in the community. Keys evidences her empathic traits, particularly through this activism and philanthropy. It demonstrates compassion, decency, a strong moral compass, caring, honesty, and justice through her repeated involvement within these matters, both on the large scale and micro scale, notwithstanding her considerable fame and wealth. And accordingly, she very much belongs within the empathic group. Number 8. Sir David Attenborough. Sir David Frederick Attenborough is an English broadcaster and natural historian. He's best known for writing and presenting, in conjunction with the BBC Natural History Unit, with 9 natural history documentary series, forming the Life collection that together constitute a comprehensive survey of animal and plant life on Earth. He is regarded widely as a national treasure in the United Kingdom, although demonstrating his empathic trait of humility and the absence of showcasing and grandiosity, he doesn't actually like the term. Attenborough was involved in a long, stable marriage of 47 years to his wife Jane until her death in 1997. There has never been any reports of him behaving in a manner which would be viewed as controlling or abusive. He is well regarded by all those that work with him for his professionalism, and he is described as somebody of irreproachable integrity, evidencing a strong moral compass. He's also father to 2 children. He's very well regarded, both critically and personally, being universally well liked, and handles this adoration with considerable humility. He has 32 honorary degrees from British universities, more than anybody else, evidencing the esteem within which he is held. In 2018, a YouGov poll in the United Kingdom found him to be the most popular person in Britain. Notwithstanding this repeated level of fame and popularity, he is an individual who handles it all with self-deprecating humour. He has a broadcasting career of 7 decades and has not faced reports of being difficult or awkward to work with. He is well known also as a consequence of his self-deprecating behaviour. He has often talked about being concerned by reason of imposter syndrome. For instance, he has talked about the fact that he has generally doesn't know as much scientific wisdom as people attribute to him. For instance, he's confessed that he was a biologist once, but he's a hopeless birder. And if he goes out with a birder, he keeps his mouth shut. He just nods, He demonstrates that he's a reasonable naturalist, but he states, with his humility and lack of showcasing, that he's not a great all-seeing source of all information, knowledge, and understanding. He is of considerable expertise, but the only praise that he ever will accept for is his skill as a storyteller, and he's well regarded for his ability to connect with people, as a consequence evidencing his emotional empathy, whereby he is known as being an excellent raconteur, for instance at dinner parties. He has become more and more involved in environmentalism, underpinning his emotional empathy, but much of this is actually done off-screen, for instance, lending his support in a low-key manner to green charities, and as a standing joke that he's opened so many visitor centres at nature reserves that most have a plaque declaring that they've been opened by Sir David Attenborough. He is an individual that is well regarded by many, many people, and he treats his fame in a particular manner for the purposes of good causes. Earlier, he had faced criticism about failing to demonstrate the human impact upon the environment on which he so often reported, something which he has more lately addressed as a consequence of moving more and more into environmentalism. His behaviour with regard to animals evidences his emotional empathy also. The manner in which he treats the environment underpins that further. The list of behaviours is almost inexhaustive with regard to Sir David Attenborough's empathic traits. There are numerous examples of his kindness, his honesty, his compassion, and this is not only demonstrated in programs, but of the wealth of material formulated by those that have had personal interactions with him. Sir David Attenborough very much belongs within the category of the empath group. Number 9. Sir Ian McKellen, also known as Gandalf. McKellen is another individual whereby there is an absence of significant scandal in a career which has spanned 6 decades. Although he is not shy when it comes to pushing and publishing issues appertaining to gay rights, he is an individual who is not known for significant scandal and has enjoyed considerable personal success. He is known for standing up with considerable conviction when it comes to the issue of LGBT rights. In 2003, during an appearance on the British programme Have I Got News for You, McKellen claimed that when he visited Michael Howard, then Environment Secretary, who was responsible for local government, in 1988 to lobby against Section 28, Section 28 prohibited local authorities from promoting homosexuality. Michael Howard refused to change his position, but did ask McKellen to leave an autograph for his children. McKellen agreed, but wrote, "Fuck off, I'm gay." It just exhibits the conviction that he has with regard to his campaigns. He's heavily involved in activism, underpinning his empathic trait of compassion, decency and justice. He's a co-founder of Stonewall, an LGBT rights lobby group in the United Kingdom. He's a patron of LGBT History Month, Pride London, Oxford Pride, Gay Gloss, and is an LGBT founder. The LGBT Foundation. He exhibits considerable self-deprecation. In 1994, at the closing of the Gay Games, he took the stage and said, "I'm Sir Ian McKellen, but you can call me Serena," reference to a nickname that had been given to him by Stephen Fry, circulating within the gay community since McKellen had been knighted. He has engaged in considerable charity work. In April 2010, he appeared in a series of TV advertisements to support Age UK, which was a charity recently formed from the merger of Age Concern and Help the Aged. McKellen gave his time free of charge. He's a cricket fan, and he umpired a match in 2011 for a charity cricket match in New Zealand to support earthquake victims of the February 2011 Christchurch earthquake. McKellen is an honorary board member of the New York and Washington DC-based organisation Only Make Believe. Only Make Believe creates and performs interactive plays in children's hospitals and care facilities. He hosted their annual Make Believe on Broadway Gala in November 2013. And he garnered publicity for the organisation by stripping down to his Lord of the Rings underwear on stage. McKellen also supports individual theatres. While in New Zealand filming The Hobbit in 2012, he announced a special New Zealand tour, Shakespeare, Tolkien and You, with the proceeds going to help save the Isaac Theatre Royal, which suffered extensive damage during the 2011 Christchurch earthquake. McKellen said he opted to help save the building as it was the last theatre he played in New Zealand, and the locals love it to be made a place worth supporting. McKellen has had a number of gay relationships, and he is not known for any controlling or abusive behaviour within those relationships. One of the relationships he's described as tempestuous with regard to his partner, Sean Matthias, the tempestuous nature arising out of conflicts over McKellen's success in acting versus Matthias's somewhat less successful career, although thereafter the two remain friends, evidencing emotional empathy on both sides as a consequence of being able to maintain that. McKellen's empathic behaviour is evidenced by an absence of grandiosity, humility. In repeated interviews, it is clear that he is able to empathise with individuals, that he is particularly well spoken of through interviews and also in print and digital media, being a well-liked and well-regarded individual. Again, he will have narcissistic traits, of course, as being a performer, most notably pride and vanity, but they are not outshone by his various, or rather they are outshone by his various empathic traits of his compassion, his decency, his strong moral compass, and his sense of justice. McKellen has an absence of complaints about him generally by individuals. He is not known for cheating or infidelity. He is not known for being an outrageous show-off and exhibiting grandiosity and behaving with a lack of emotional empathy, both within his professional life and also with regard to his activism and campaigning. Accordingly, Sir Ian McKellen also belongs within the empath group.